Radical self-respect and the power of walking away. My name is Jared Mello, and this is Mello Mentoring, author of Radical Self-Respect, Avoid Falling for the Same BS on Amazon now. Also, thank you very much to everyone who's been liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. It's been greatly appreciated, all of the support I've gotten, and trying to grow the channel here, so if you know people that like videos about self-improvement, dating, relationships, mental health, and supplements that could help mental health issues, please do let them know about my channel or share with them. Thank you. But on to today's video, Radical Self-Respect and the Power of Walking Away. As we begin to practice radical self-respect in our lives, we will become better and better at displaying and enforcing our boundaries. Healthier people who have healthier behaviors, they're going to be able to listen to our boundaries and respect them. And maybe they'll cross them, sometimes because we haven't done a good enough job at letting them know what our boundaries were. Other times they'll cross them and, it's a personal boundary for us that maybe some other people don't have, but it's our boundary, and they cross it unknowingly, and we mention it to them, preferably in a cool, calm, collect way, respectful way, and then preferably they listen. Now, there's a couple levels to this here, because sometimes if people cross boundaries multiple times, maybe we should have to raise our voice and be a little annoyed about it to show we're serious. But here's the thing. I have a couple rules where once a boundary has been crossed in this way, I just walk away because there is no helping it. And there's three different kinds of relationships we're going to talk about. Relationships with family, relationship with friends, and romantic relationships. And I guess you could also put working relationships in there too. So, relationships with family. I try to have the longest leash with my relationships with family. But there are certain people who have personality disorders, such as NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, where if we try to convey a boundary with them, we're going to get gaslit. They're going to be able to take no responsibility. They're not going to be able to admit they've done anything wrong, and they'll flip everything on us and blame us for whatever's going on. Whatever inner turmoil they have, they'll put it back on us. And honestly, there just is no way to have a healthy relationship with someone who's like that. So the only thing left to do is to walk away. And I know in some cases, maybe people have a kid with a narcissist, etc., or it's like a parent, and you don't want to completely cut them off. But I would say the least amount of contact necessary in those cases, because if someone can't admit they're wrong, if someone can't take any responsibility at all, that's a toxic behavior. And there's no use in trying to convince those types of people that what our boundaries are, because they prove that they're not willing to listen. So the only thing left to do is walk away. In relationships with friends, I'll walk away sometimes when I've noticed that I'm the only one who is giving effort for multiple weeks to months, where I'll stop talking to someone for a minute. And if I just never hear from them again, it kind of shows me where I was at on their priority list. And yeah, it's kind of a passive thing to do, and I don't always test like that, but once in a while, it's good to see the people who care about us, and they'll display it. If they truly care, people's actions will show it. But that's like the rarest way I walk away with friends. The more common way is I display a boundary, and they just don't want to respect it at all. They blatantly just say, no, or good luck, see you later. Nope, I'm not. And after we've set a boundary calmly and collectively, if they've blatantly told us, no, we're not going to respect your boundary, then we have ourselves a question. We have to ask ourselves a question. What's more important to us? Practicing radical self-respect or having this person in our lives? Because you better believe that is the choice. And for many years in my life, especially in romantic relationships, I would put that person's approval and having them be in my life over radical self-respect, over practicing radical self-respect. And it hasn't been till the last couple years that I've really flipped that. And I put radical self-respect number one on my list. I practice radical self-respect as my number one principle I adhere to. And there's many things involved in radical self-respect, but no one is worth me sacrificing my radical self-respect. And I repeat that, no one. And it comes down to our priorities. My priority used to be, like I said, getting some woman's approval, or having her like me, or love me, or trying to get some sex or something. But that is no longer my number one goal. My number one goal is to radically respect myself, because if I don't have that, what do I have? I'm not willing to sacrifice myself and who I am and lose myself for someone else's love, approval, or acceptance. And I highly suggest you take my cue on this one, because it's just not worth it. If the only way someone is going to be in our lives is if we disrespect ourselves, that's not a good person to have in our lives. Now I get it, when we're parents, our kids may do this to us one day, and that's a different story, because our kids will be our kids forever. But we should still certainly communicate when we're being disrespected. Now, to go into romantic relationships here, say I've been broken up with someone. I will always walk away when I've been broken up with. If someone says to me, Jared, I don't love you anymore, Jared, I don't like you anymore, or Jared, this is over, I won't beg, I won't grovel, I'll walk away. And conversely, of course, if we walk away and mean it, and then kind of do things like the no contact rule, the woman might come back. And the same for men too. Men, might come back if we do this. But that's not the goal. The goal is we know our value. We know our worth. And we only want people in our lives that see it, that appreciate it, and enjoy our company. And if someone's breaking up with us, then of course they're not. They're not seeing our value. They're not appreciating us. They're not loving us anymore. And so it's up to us. Practice radical self-respect and wait for someone to come into our lives that does value us, that does treat us really well and love us. Because here's the thing. We teach other people how to treat us. And if we are constantly being mistreated, we are cooperating with the treatment. So I practice radical self-respect, and oftentimes I'll demonstrate radical self-respect as opposed to explaining it. Demonstrating, doing the actions, is much more powerful than the words anyway. So I demonstrate radical self-respect. And one of the biggest indicators that someone is practicing radical self-respect is that they have the courage to walk away. They have the power to walk away. And this holds true again for business relationships and coworkers, right? Say we're in a haggle with some salesman. If we have our bottom line and we are not willing to go under this or over it, whatever the case may be, and we are willing to walk away and mean it, I can't emphasize the mean it part enough. But if we walk away, so often opportunities can come our way, or the other salesperson will buckle and they'll try to meet our demands. The power of walking away is humongous. But what stops people from walking away? Their need for approval from others, their need to be a people pleaser, or their need to be a doormat or to be codependent because they can't stand on their own 2 feet. When someone practices radical self-respect, they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. They are strong on their own. And not to say that walking away is always easy. Certainly not. There's been people I've walked away from and I've wanted to talk to them even though they have disrespected me or treated me poorly because I did like them. But if someone is not willing to respect me and respect my boundaries, then I just know that's not a good person for my life. Even if they've done things for my life sometimes, which some people have. But it's like, I'm just not willing to sacrifice my radical self-respect. And I have to believe, and I do believe, the kinds of people that are supposed to be in my life will respect my boundaries. and it won't be an issue. Because here's the other thing that happens when we try to communicate a boundary. Certain people will flip and blow up. And when we communicate a boundary and they get really annoyed about it, it's just further evidence the boundary was needed in the first place. So there's many different ways that we can take a look at radical self-respect. Family relationships, friend relationships, romantic relationships, or working/bargaining relationships. But the power of walking away is extremely important, and having the courage and ability to do so in all of those scenarios is so key. Because if we are not willing to walk away, others will sense this, and they will certainly take advantage of it. All of those people, even family members, will take advantage of it sometimes when they know we aren't willing to walk away, when we don't have the courage to do so. And of course, in the romantic relationship sense too, if someone flat out tells us they don't care about us, which has happened to me as well, that's, boom, gone. Even if it's not true, even if they say it and they're just trying to say it to hurt us, just the fact that they're saying it to hurt us, that's a red flag. Boom, gone. I don't need someone like that in my life that's trying to hurt me like that. No one deserves that. Especially not someone who's trying to practice radical self-respect. And people's actions will display. Do we really practice radical self-respect? Do we really radically respect ourselves? Our actions will prove it, if we really do. And if we are constantly letting people walk all over our boundaries and letting them disrespect us without trying to stop them and put our foot down, and it still continues to happen though, say we do put our foot down, we do tell them no, and it doesn't stop, the only thing left to do is to walk away. Because believe it, that's the only thing that will gain some people's respect. They won't really respect us until we show them, until we demonstrate to them that we respect ourselves. And should it be that way? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But all I know is it is that way. We teach other people how to treat us, and we have to radically respect ourselves in all areas, with all people, because it becomes a habit. If we don't radically respect ourselves in certain situations, it can become contagious, and it can bleed over into other areas. But if we practice radical self-respect in all areas, the part of us that is learning how to do that, the part of us that is radically respecting ourselves, gets stronger. And it's like a muscle. And it becomes easier and easier until the point that radical self-respect is second nature. We do it unconsciously. It's just how we normally are. But if we're not used to acting with radical self-respect, it can certainly be difficult in the beginning, especially for folks who are codependent or people pleasers, like I have been in my life. It can be extremely uncomfortable to even just try to enforce a boundary, let alone walk away. But I've been starting to get jiggy with it here, where if I'm getting disrespected or people don't respect my boundaries, I'm gone, baby. Gone, baby, gone. And I don't look back, because I only want people in my life that are going to respect me. And one person I've cut off has said to me, "Oh, it's selfish of me to want to only have people treat me a certain way." This person was narcissistic, naturally. And that's just one of the tricky things they might say when we practice radical self-respect. Or they'll call us narcissists too. That's the other thing. They'll say, "Oh, you're a narcissist for practicing radical self-respect." But it's like, no. Only people who disrespect themselves would say that to us. Or they're trying to disrespect us. And it's like they say, the only people who will get upset when we try to enforce our boundaries are people that were benefiting from us having none. And let me repeat that. The only people who will be upset when we try to enforce a boundary are people who benefited from us having none. That is so, so important. And we just can't allow that to happen. So walking away is the last resort, but it's certainly been needed in my life from time to time. I can't say it hasn't been. And we must have the ability to do so, or people will sense it. So remember, when in doubt, reflect, get a good night's sleep, think on things, but if we're consistently being disrespected or told that they don't care about us, or they flat out say, no, I'm not going to respect your boundary, they're leaving us with no choice. And if we want to continue practicing radical self-respect, we have to have the ability to walk away. And we might not get this overnight. It might be a learning process. We might say we're going to walk away and then kind of wander back. That's okay. No one's perfect. But we don't beat ourselves up either when we practice radical self-respect. We know we're human. We know we're not perfect. But we just continuously try to get better each day. That's the radical self-respect way. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Please leave some comments below if you liked this video. Did you disagree, agree, whatever it is. Maybe give me some stories on what it's been like to walk away in your life, because I'd love to hear some positive examples. So with that, thank you for watching, and have a good one.